It's Sam. Your name's Sam, right?
That's right. Yeah. All right. Welcome to Witchpolice Radio. I am on the internet again, as I always am. I know I feel if I have this like compulsion to say that I'm on the internet, even though everyone is at this point, because we're still hopefully getting out of it, but we're still in the pandemic. And this is how I do interviews now. And this is how I think that a lot of the artists that I interview have been talking to people too, just at home or wherever they are via a phone or a computer and just disembodied voice, over the internet. But it works, and it's a good way to talk to people, despite all the craziness that's going on. So the guest on this episode is someone who is relatively new to me. I know you've been doing this for quite a while in the province, but I'm kind of a newcomer to your music. So I think the best way to start this off is if you wanted to just briefly introduce yourself and give a bit of background about what it is that you do.
Okay. I'm a singer-songwriter. I was born in Thompson, Manitoba, and raised on a family farm in the parkland in between the Duck Mountain and the Riding Mountain. And that's where I graduated high school. Ended up in a bad car accident where we lost a loved one. Wow. And being on the farm at that time, I think is what put a guitar and some emotions, in my body.
For sure. Yeah. That would do it. Something that that kind of traumatic experience often gives people the opportunity to find a creative way to put their feelings out there, for sure.
Yeah, it was a car accident. We were 17 and 18 years old, so quite young, graduating year. So had to finish school and carry that loss and the tragedy.
Yeah.
And you're right. You find a way to I guess deal with it positively. You can't be mourning all your life, but it does definitely affect you.
No doubt. One of the things that I find interesting about talking to people from across Manitoba is that as a Winnipegger and as someone who does this podcast, I feel like Winnipeg always seems like the priority because there's so many artists from the city, and it's easy to forget that there's so much cool stuff happening, outside the perimeter. There's so many different musicians all over the province. You go up north, you go to east, west, south, it doesn't matter. There's tons of cool stuff happening, and it's easy to be kind of blinkered and think Winnipeg only. So what was it like for you growing up out there as far as a music community? Like, did you feel like there were other artists that you could learn from and then play with and then jam with and things like that where you were growing up?
Yeah, there was a guy named Barry Mikowski. His band was called Bearcat.
Okay, I've heard of them, yeah.
Yeah, so he's from Winnipegosis. That's where my dad's family's from. And at that time, I might have felt like I was the only one besides being in a Ukrainian band, maybe. There's a lot of older fellows that played in Ukrainian bands. And Bearcat played like a contemporary rock, like a roots rock. And so, I mean, if they had like events, like a community event or like a fundraiser or New Year's, we had to wait. There was a time gap between shows that you got to experience that. So I wasn't around it very much. And then Ryan Cowan is a country artist from Roblin, Rossburn area. And he would chum around in those venues around Gilbert Plains and Dauphin and Swan River. So I'd sneak out to those shows too, again, 17, 18 years old. So that's how I was getting my feed for live music, I guess. And then at that age, being young, moving out there and not really knowing about a scene anyway, you got to scout around for it. And, there's people that are passionate about live music and then people that just take it as it comes. Some people would come into the city to a big concert, come see Garth Brooks. Yeah. That was never my thing. I always managed to get enough of it. Like you're saying there, we found them, the little honky tonks.
Yeah. I like that because I think, being from the city, it's just all around. You walk down the street, you just 4 bars, they each have a band playing, right? But you have to actually seek out and find the people who are doing it first of all, and then find out where they're playing, and then actually get to where they're playing to do that. So I imagine it's a very different experience.
Yeah, and you're a bit of an odd sheep too there. Like, in grade 10, 11 in the early 90s, that's not what everyone was doing, jumping in vehicles and looking for live music. But if I heard of something, I was finding a way to commute 30 to an hour and a half, 30 minutes to an hour and a half to go. Because, it was always going to be a good time when you got there. And just like, you just had to convince your friends that country music was actually a thing.
Was country always the thing with you? Like, was that always a very strong influence for you?
I think in 91, when I moved out to my uncle and aunt's farm, they had just bought the property at that time too. So it was brand new. I was there from the start with them. It's not like I came in mid, career of them doing that. And he always played, like, the old farm trucks, and every machinery had a tape of something, some
Yeah.
kind of old, and the music was good, like Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. You'd have Don Williams and, Merle Haggard, Conway Twitty, George Jones. So that's the kind
Yeah.
of tapes that were everywhere. So I mean, not every song was good. That's where you get that old sad, sell my truck, dog's dead, lost a wife.
Yeah. The stereotype. A lot of people have
Yeah,
those
the
country- yeah, sure.
stereotype. But
Yeah.
but every third, fourth track on there, really catchy, good music. You still hear it today,
Yeah. Well, and you're getting
Uh,
exposed to some of the greats of the genre too, just
Yeah.
from being around that, right?
Yeah, probably one of the more in tune influences, I guess, from like the people seem to really work in those days, within 100 years, but still things have really changed and developed, technological wise for us.
Yeah.
They were everyone was hands-on work, and a different story to tell.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And that comes through in a lot of songs, I think, from past eras too. You see more of that actually being talked about, in the songs directly. That experience, the farm experience and the rural experience, things like that.
Yeah, true enough. And then as I got older and spent a little more time in the city, exactly like you're saying, we played 2008 would have been our busiest year in Winnipeg. We were playing 4 and 5 nights a week, and we managed to do that for the whole year. It was a goal we set. And yeah, you're right. Winnipeg is a hub and a center port for musicians. Someone like myself, I need musicians, and there's a ton of them, and they all have great accolades. Like, not, everyone's doing something really good.
Well, maybe that brings up another question then. I mean, I haven't played in bands in like a decade, or more. But Winnipeg is a very, very tight knit music scene. Like everyone, a lot of my friends from 20, 30 years ago are people that I knew from playing in bands, and I'm still friends with today. Was it difficult at all for you, as someone from outside, coming in here and trying to fit into the scene and trying to, meet the musicians you wanted to play with and things like that?
Yeah, I went from playing in a band called 100 Years Rising. We had 5 members, and we did every show together. Everything we did was together, and that was a cover band. It was really going that way, and we struggled with going original.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point of this band dismembering in maybe 2010, like, we still had a lot of respect for each other, but that's only been like 10 years, like you say, in a decade now, to start finding the freelance guys, earning their respect, playing with them, not being able to book them at the next show because they're booked with so and so, and respecting that. And it's just kind of a whole new avenue. And I wouldn't say tricky hard. You got to stay committed, dedicated. You can't step on anyone's toes, and you can't have your toes stepped on. But that's the way it seems to work today. There's a large group of players out there, and if someone can't do the job for you, then they'll find someone that they think can do the job for them.
Yeah.
And there's a huge level of respect there. No one wants to lose the next phone call, right?
Of course, yeah.
And they're not paying. So you got to take as many as you can. You got to come up with the bill money by playing more for less, and that's what everyone's doing. So I guess it is a tight circle. We all want to get, we all got to pay our bills.
And what you just described too, that kind of hustle of just, getting whatever shows you can get because you got to pay the bills, that has been completely upended by the situation the world's been in over the past couple of years. And like, what has that been like for you? I understand your new single touches on some of the pandemic situation as well, but what has it been like for you as an artist trying to just do what you do during this period of time?
I'm lucky enough to, I'm a carpenter as well. I don't have my red seal, but I've been doing this type of work for 20 years.
Okay.
And I managed to score some really big jobs and stay busy working. I didn't feel that type of stress on the music, but I did definitely feel like the stage lights got shut off, the curtains were closed, the seats were put away.
Totally, yeah.
And then we're doing what we're doing here today. And on our first time doing this, like, maybe not someone like yourself, if you've already worked in radio or podcast or any, like, for us, it's like we have to come learn how to get an app, download it, synchronize with someone else's music, or like everyone stepped it up a notch in we were forced into it, I guess, not really by choice. And for myself, it wasn't something I was interested right off the bat. There was no feel, there's no connection at the end of an exchange of the art. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
you just hit end and it's over. There's no feel. So I had this little show called Corona Country, and I just got up in the morning, put on a different shirt. I went through every shirt I owned, and a different shirt I went a month straight, 30 days for at 6 a.m. I'd get up and I'd have a coffee with whoever was logging on. And I ended up having a couple hundred viewers every morning. And I would sing one song, but I would just look out the window. I'd give you the weather forecast from just looking out the window, because that's how it felt. Like, why do we need to put up the you know what I mean, the wind vine or whatever, the wind sock and a thermometer? We could just guess, because that's what life was about at the moment.
Sure.
Lots of people didn't know if they were going to work. I knew I was going to work, so I had that story to share a little bit. But yeah, I'd wish people happy birthday on there. It was maybe 11 to 15 minutes long, and that's what I did for people. And I know that listeners and others that don't have something like this to turn to their music or an art or anything like that, you can keep your mind and your soul busy with anything if you're passionate about it. And that's what artists are. So when you share that, when you share that art with people that don't have that, like, I find it's really genuine that they really appreciate that cup of coffee, my fake analysis of the news or of the weather. It looks cloudy, it might rain, it might not. And so I did that. And I was tired of it after the 30 days, because, like I say, it left me with just nothing but more work and more work and more work. And it's volunteer, so I wasn't reaching out for any type of funding. But later on, I realized, and you just keep away at this, the arts councils are there for programs like that and like yours. And we just got to wake up in the morning with that attitude. And no matter what happens in society, we should be able to overcome it. We've as a whole, nation, and across the globe, we get through the hardest times.
Yeah, people have survived and found new ways to approach whatever it is they're doing, because they've kind of had to, right? Did you feel like doing those morning sessions there, did that give you maybe a new appreciation for this sort of method of communicating? I mean, I know, again, the warmth of having in-person performance isn't there, but did you sort of develop a better understanding or appreciation of being able to reach an audience through a computer screen?
Yes, both pros and cons. I think I overthink a lot of things, and that one was I quickly realized how much the people were appreciative of it, and they were kind of waiting there with their cups of coffee after the third or fourth day, when I told them I'm gonna do this for a month. That's the challenge, and I would decide then if I was going to keep going. But 7 days a week, that was a challenge. And 6 in the morning, put a damper on some of my evening activities.
No doubt, yeah.
but it did. I felt that, and then I felt it was still there, and got used to it. This is what we've all been doing now. So a couple times a month we get down here and on Zoom or whatever it is. I've done a couple big conference staff parties now on here, and I'm appreciative of it. Yeah.
Cool. So your latest single came out, I guess it was the end of last month, right? End of May. What can you tell me about the song?
Well, that one there, we got into some grant writing about a year ago. And when something I've experienced now with grant writing is, once you say and you apply for a project, you follow up with that project, whether you're in the mood to or not. You have to, it's the way it goes. If you're going to apply for something that's in the future. So what I've learned there is I have to respect this project. I have to follow it up. And in part of following that up was writing 2 more songs.
Okay.
And the time came, and my business partner Steven says, you just got to do it. Go get something that's close to you and go think about it for a while and see what you come up with. And sure enough, that worked. I went and locked myself in a room, cup of coffee, my guitar, pen and paper, and it was a no-brainer. I was working in Ottawa for 8 months, and I was lucky to not have any mental stress from the pandemic, because my tools were being used every day.
Right.
But my kids, I got a 10-year-old, I got 3 kids, and my oldest is 10 in grade 4. I think they just had enough of we're not going to school today. We are going to school today. They don't even
Yep.
care who the teacher is anymore because now it's a computer. It's a different lady. There's no trust and bond there anymore for the kids. And I mean, I learned this after because I had to really dig into my kid's life and figure out what the heck was going on. And it took a full year. Like, I mean, but the hardest part of those years was now meeting with the school. And are we putting him on meds? Are we a psychologist? He's got to go to a doctor here, more school. Next thing you know, he's only at school half days. And I'm like, this is affecting everybody now. And so I had to quit my job in October and ended up working for the school division here in Portage and told them my situation. I ended up with a job half day. So I was able to pick him up at noon and come home with him. And I was like, there's nothing wrong with this kid.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just bored and sick and tired of everything like some of us are. But you don't want to teach a 10-year-old that.
No, for sure. And I think the pandemic affected kids like I have two kids of my own too. They're 12 and 8. And similar thing in that school was so nebulous. You didn't know whether it was happening. You didn't know how long it would happen for, or if you go back to class, is it going to last a week and then you're stuck at home again? Like I can't imagine what impact this has had on that generation, going forward, just having lived through this.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. And when you want to worry about that, you'll drive yourself nuts. And I think that's what I ended up sitting there doing. What can you tell a 10-year-old besides, you know what? If two grown men like us, we have a different opinion of how we're going to deal with this, but you can't really teach that to a kid.
Right.
So I was like, I guess like a fight in the playground type thing, controversy. Let's just give the best advice. What is that? Turn the other cheek, put your head up, keep your chin up, keep your back against the wall. And this just started playing in my mind, and the melody come at the same time. It's like you have to uplift a sad emotion with a good melody.
Sure.
And the same thing, what we talked about with tragedy, you have to find a positive way to come out of it. And that's how that song kind of formed. It was just like, just give good advice. And before finishing the song, we steered away from making it so personal to a 10-year-old. And it was quick. Dave Laszlo helped me finish it from Doc Walker, and Stephen Arundel is my producer now and guitar player for the last 12 years.
Okay.
I brought them in and said, let's finish this one. This one is the one. Like I can feel good songs when they're starting to like, let's just sew this one up. And it's part of this program we're applying for. And the way it came back from those two guys, we had maybe 4 exchange meetings, and that was it. We knew it was done. And
cool.
and it was about that, like the state of society's mind. It's like we all just need to maybe zip it, and how many family dinners, I mean Christmas dinners were canceled because people just didn't have the same opinion, whether it was we're allowed to get together, we're allowed to be from different towns, all these rules that were playing into people's actual plans.
Well, and they changed often too. The rules would keep changing, and so people just trying to keep up on what was cool and what wasn't. Yeah.
And then you had your quiet people that were indulging anyway, half vaxxed and half not. And then you had on the other side the people still playing by the rules, half vaxxed and half not. And those are the ones missing out on everything and not. And then who do we blame at the end of this? The government or each other? Or it was just turning into exactly that. So it was actually an easy song to finish once we started thinking like that, rather than about my son McLean.
Yeah. It's cool how you use that as a jumping off point and then making it into something more universal. Yeah,
too many songs can go emotional and personal if you don't be careful of that. As a songwriter, I think so. I'm glad to have professional writers around and able to filter some of that.
Yeah. What is the experience like releasing a song during all of this? Because I mean that's different too. Releasing any music, pre-pandemic would have been very different in terms of how you get it out there, how you let people know that this song is out. You can't perform it for live audiences necessarily, although that's getting better now. But I mean, what was that like compared to previous stuff you put out?
I think for myself, I'm not an underdog, maybe an underdog, but I think it kind of put me on a level playing field with everybody else that was writing and releasing, because you're right, we all kind of were doing it the same way right now. And one little, it's not a rule, it's just something I really think about all the time, is how much time and money and effort am I willing to sacrifice song after song if I don't start living, by the means of my music, or dedicating 100% of it to that. I'm always looking after contracts with building, or I'm looking after, jobs for organizations. And I'm wondering, I'm at a point in my life where it's time to, I think, hold on tighter to, the music, and because if it's there, it's there. You just got to create it and share. You got to create it and share it. For me to try and not pursue that anymore, I think would be silly.
I guess part of that too is finding out how to get it to the right people, right? To the people who are going to appreciate it, the people who kind of already have ears for the type of stuff that you're playing, and then from there, that just helps spread with word of mouth and everything else.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's you got to work with the right team. The team that's behind you, each one of you want to be, when you look left and right, you want to see them pushing as hard.
Yeah.
And you're right. It did. There's about 10 of us now, and it's just the way it's got to be. You got to work and pay the bills, get the music. Like, it's a creative and a sharing process. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And when you let the clay makers make clay, they'll do a good job, right? Let them do it. And I'm very appreciative of it now. It's maybe my third year working with, and you're right through the pandemic. So I guess I am just seeing brand new changes. They're not even something a change that you're aware, or you can share. It's just, it's brand new.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Is this going to be kind of the lead into something bigger? Are you hoping to put out an album or an EP coming up in the relatively near future, or is that still quite a ways off?
No, that is actually getting visual content up on the internet is the next goal. So we do have 3 acoustic videos coming out simultaneously, one after the other, over the summer. And you can look out for High Road will be the first one, obviously, because it's the single. And then
makes sense. Yeah.
Like, I'll let your team in on a couple secrets here. And then the Nickel Mine is another one from last year's release. We're going to put that one up. And so, I mean, people like yourself, when you go to look for our content, it's not really there. So we're just in the building stages of that as well. But definitely there's an album. There's a couple older songs I wrote that weren't mastered, and I feel like they were, they never really had the chance to be exposed, and we're going to revisit those. And you're right, an EP or an album is definitely in the next, if not, it won't be this year, it'll be next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does the situation look like for you right now as far as playing shows? I mean, have you been out there now that the restrictions have eased a little?
Yeah, for sure. We're playing at the Portage exhibition here in town July 8th.
Okay.
Full band. And July 9th in Mossy River Days, we're opening for Charlie Major there, and another music peer from our community, Emma Peterson.
Okay. Yeah.
She'll be with us there. And I'm playing at the Indigenous Peoples Day at the Cube in Winnipeg on June 21st.
Oh, cool.
So some good gigs and some private functions into August, and just marketing the music, marketing the new song. That's what my summer looks like. Yeah.
What if someone is hearing about you for the first time on the show, or wants to hear more of your stuff, or follow what you're up to? What's the best way to sort of keep in touch with you online, and to just hear the new single, hear the stuff that you already have out?
Yeah, we're on Instagram and Facebook, Nelson Little Music, and any of my songs are on all streaming platforms. I prefer Apple Music and Spotify. I have both, but I mean, the Apple for myself is just a good app to have. And we use it for our sharing with all the musicians and whatnot. Oh, yeah. So it's a good platform for that. Just sharing songs and making set lists right there. Yeah, and that's about it. I do have a website, nelsonlittle.com, and our info goes up there. Stephen Arundel manages that and my bookings. Okay. So you can find us there as well, nelsonlittle.com.
So the good thing about this being a podcast is someone could hear it, when it comes out, or they could hear it a year from now. And by then you could have a bunch of new stuff out. You could be playing a bunch more shows. So I guess the website or the Instagram or something would be the best spot to look at, regardless of when you're hearing this.
That's right. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then I guess obviously the new song is something that you're pushing and you're getting out there and you want people to hear. What would you suggest as a good starting point for someone who is unfamiliar with your music? Would you want them to go right to that new single and use that as kind of an introduction to you, or is there other stuff you've done in the past that you think is a good just like a beginner's guide to what it is that
Yeah,
you do?
there's a song called there's a few. So my first album was called The Little Things. This album was never mastered, and I was in my let's just call it my juvenile years of recording music. And
Sure.
as long as you got a CD back, you were going to go burn that and make a bunch, and everyone had a copy. That's
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of what
yeah.
happened. But there's 3 good songs on there, and
Okay.
one's called I Won't Fall Down, Whiskey Devil, and Hide and Seek. And there's another song that actually all of them are great. I got great feedback from them, but because they don't have the ISRC coding and they're not mastered, there's not much we can do with them. But I get a lot of feedback from those songs. That's why I want to re-record them.
Okay.
And then on the last album that is mastered, it's called Ain't Afraid of the Truth. There's a couple songs on there, and Fast One sticks out. It's a non-chorus 5-verse song.
Oh, cool.
that has no leads and no chorus, but it's a very catchy song, and that one has #1 feedback because it's a 5-minute song, and that'll never get radio play, and it's just unique. But it's a story of a mom and a son, and very, very catchy. So I mean, if people open up these platforms, you're going to see maybe 5 songs on there, and the last 4 songs we produced ourselves. So we stepped away from paying for a producer and just started doing it ourselves here in Portage. And we still farm out all the, everything. We just produce and play the guitars. We sub everything else out. And where was I going with that? So you'll see now, because I think as you build these platforms, I don't know if the industry, these large companies do this, or if I don't know how the quality content kind of prioritizes on these platforms. So it already shows your best 5 songs, whether it's by interest or I don't know if they have like a censor for quality, but it almost seems like they do. You know what I mean? Because some of these earlier songs that they're way at the bottom, you might not even find them.
Right.
So you're going to find
better quality ones are there. Yeah.
So as long as you're listening to the last 5 that were put out, you're going to hear, you might want to dig deeper. And as you dig deeper, you might like those ones with on the Little Things album. Like I say, they're not mastered. And I think we even took them off of CD Baby, like the distribution, but somehow they're still floating around everywhere. I think YouTube harnesses they just have their own thing going on there.
Sure. Yeah. Cool.
So yeah.
Cool.